Hello and welcome everybody to our 2026 room selection webinar for students with a guarantee, but also for students who are interested in room selection, maybe the room selection interest process, or perhaps you're a transfer student looking to see what options are available to you. Our webinar is scheduled to start at 3. We just want to give everybody a little bit more time to join us today. So we'll probably start in a couple minutes, but we wanted to welcome you. Get comfy. Hopefully you're somewhere dry and warm with our rare rain here in San Diego. Maybe with a cup of tea or some coffee. Maybe you're with friends. And again, this will be information for campus housing for next year, which we typically do through room selection, but we have other options for students that we'll talk about as well. And we just want to welcome you today. Thanks for joining us. Just want to welcome everybody. It's 3:01. Just going to give people a couple more minutes to join us. We had about 184 people register. It's good to see that we're almost at that number already. So again, this is information regarding our room selection for students who want to participate in housing for 2026. If you don't have a guarantee or are not sure, don't leave, stay on so you can get information. We'll have our contact information shared at the end of this if you have questions about your status. But we just want to welcome you and thank you for making the time for us. We'll give everybody about another minute to get comfy and join us, and we'll start right at 3:02. Thanks again for being here today. Okay, it looks like it's that time. So once again, we just want to thank you all for joining us on this rainy, somewhat cold San Diego day, which is a little unusual. If you're here, this is a webinar regarding room selection. It is mostly geared towards our guaranteed students. However, we do talk about other options for students who may have a different eligibility status program. And when we talk about guaranteed, that means that you were most likely a fall 2025 or winter 26 admit, or you're in a scholar program that guarantees you housing. And so again, if you're not sure, we did send out emails around February 2nd, or a couple of people might have got one on the 3rd. Make sure you go back and look for that email. It has all the important dates and information, also references to all of our important websites, and we'll also be mentioning those and sharing those links here in our chat with you all. So again, welcome. My name is Malia Mahi. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Associate Director of Housing Administrative Services. I'll explain a little bit about what that means in the next slides. I'm also going to be joined by my colleague, Stacy Travis, and she is the Associate Director of Residential Services and Housing Allocations. And Stacy will be sharing specifics about the room selection process, some options for students maybe that aren't going through room selection, and any of the steps you need to take to successfully complete that process. I also just want to thank all the staff mentioned here who are attending in the background and who are going to be available via the Q&A feature to answer any of your questions. We're going to do our best to answer as many as we can in this session, but if for some reason we don't get to your question, our last slide is a slide with our contact information so you can reach out to us directly. As far as housekeeping items, again, we are recording this webinar and we are going to make that available on the room selection page the week of the 16th. So maybe you have class to get to, you can't stay here for the whole time. Maybe you have a friend who is interested in coming but can't. You can always make sure that they know it's going to be up on the website. Use that Q&A to submit your questions, and we ask to please not put anything confidential in there. So if there's something specific, maybe about housing accommodation or a medical condition, we prefer that you email us directly. And again, we'll have our contact information at the end of the webinar. You can also upvote Q&A questions, and we will be marking questions to be answered live. It doesn't mean we don't want to answer it, just means that we're going to answer it live with Stacy and I here at the end. You do have the ability to submit your questions anonymously or with your name. And then again, for as far as confidentiality, please don't share your PID or confidential situation. You can email us directly. We will be dropping website links and other resources in our chat. And again, you'll find this on our website the week of the 16th. As far as who we are, so again, I'm Malia Mahi with the Housing Administrative Services team, and we are the people in the background managing your housing contract. We can assist you with the terms of your contract. We help to manage the housing and dining package and the billing associated with that. We're here for any general housing inquiries. And then under our purview is also our Triton Card Accounts team. So they manage your dining dollar, your balances, the budgeting of those dollars, laundry, and the bike rental lockers. Stacy's team is called Residential Services and Housing Allocations, and they're also the gears here in the background working very hard to assist you with your space allocations, room changes. They manage the room selection process as far as providing those layouts and the self-selection process. They manage and update our housing portal. They also help support with our general housing inquiries. They help with summer housing and also with iHouse in partnership with Eleanor Roosevelt College. If you're unsure about the guarantee and how you keep it, the guarantee is offered to our fall admits, so specifically fall of 2025. It does require that you lived on campus your admit year, and that also includes our winter 2026 admit class as well. In addition, you need to complete the full term of this year's contract to maintain your eligibility. And that does apply both to those who have a 9-month and a 12-month housing contract. Additionally, you need to meet all deadlines. Those are both university and housing deadlines, and remain in compliance with all policies. How can you forfeit or lose your guarantee? If you are planning to terminate your current contract before it expires, that is loss of eligibility for the guarantee. If you miss a deadline, that is also loss of eligibility for the guarantee. There's still an option for you, but I really suggest you keep track of those deadlines coming up, and we'll talk lots about those deadlines. And if there is some reason you have to leave and again can't fulfill that full term of your 25-26 contract, you can always reach out to us directly. We can work with you case by case on your situation. So what is room selection? So if you haven't gone through this before, this is the opportunity for our continuing students. So those are students with a guarantee to apply and sign a contract. And instead of us essentially signing a space to you, you get to pick a space yourself. And you can also create roommate groups and pick spaces with them. There are some parameters in place, and so Stacy will go through those when she talks about the process. Again, you do need to have a housing guarantee to participate in room selection, but there are other options available to students who may not meet or have a guarantee currently. And then we just want to remind you that you did get an email on either February 2nd or 3rd from Housing Contracts or Room Selection regarding your guaranteed status. And we want to highly recommend that you add us to your contact list just to make sure that we don't go to your spam folder and that you miss an email from us. And so the other thing is to think about, we will be sending you reminder emails, but it's really important that you use your time management skills, whatever that is, whether it's your phone, a paper calendar, which I like to use, different calendars, Google, Outlook, whatever, to set those reminders and make sure you don't miss those deadlines. As far as options for room selection, so this year we are offering the room selection interest list again. So that is more designated for students who have a non-guaranteed status, but are still interested in living on campus with us for the 26-27 academic year. Again, you would have received an email on the 2nd of February from housing contracts at ucsd.edu, providing you your guaranteed status. So if you don't know right now, I would urge you to go back and look for that email, or you can always reach out to us and we're happy to look that up for you. And so students without a guarantee are going to be offered the opportunity to participate in room selection interest and to submit your interest for living on campus for next year. That's going to occur the same time we're doing room selection, contracting, and applications. And so that's going to be from February 18th to the 26th. Just want to make it clear that if you're participating in the room selection interest list, you're not contracting, you're just telling us that you're interested in living on campus for next year. And if you're unsure of your housing plans, then I'd encourage you to just go through with whichever process is available to you. Um, until you get to the contracting part, it is free. It is easy. You just follow the prompts through the housing portal that our beautiful RSHA team has set up for you. And then you want to make sure that you complete everything by the deadline. If you forget, there's again still an option to apply to the waitlist, and that's going to open this year in May. And at any time you complete a process with us, you will get a confirmation email. So if you do believe that you've completed room selection interest, please make sure that you check your ucsd.edu email when you're done to make sure you do have that confirmation email. For those of you on the room selection interest list and who complete your interest by the 26th, an email will be sent around March 3rd with an update on housing availability and your contract status. And then for those of you who are eligible for an offer, you might want to just mark this down. Contracting process will begin the 5th through the 10th. And just note that you're not going to be on the same timeline as those going through room selection who have a guaranteed status. You'll be on a separate timeline, and you can find that information on our dates and deadlines page. A second item that is happening for room selection this year is that we have a queue for the application and contract process. And so you will receive an email on Monday the 16th, and that email is going to provide you a start date and time you can begin to log in to complete your application and contract. So you can log in anytime at your assigned time and date or after to complete that contract process through the deadline of the 26th. A couple tips I want to just mention is don't go click crazy. So I have a daughter who's a junior, and every time I look at her screen to do something with her, she's just clicking and I can't read anything. So I just want to urge you, I know you're all very busy, but please make sure to review each page carefully before you hit next or finish. Some of these processes, once you do that, you cannot go back. So it's very, very important that you're reading that page in its entirety and paying attention to what you're selecting before you keep going. If you see that the system is slow, we're hoping to avoid that with having this queue, but it could happen. Please log in maybe at an off-peak time. So as much as we all hate it, maybe early in the morning or potentially later in the evening, but make sure you don't forget to come back and complete it by the deadline. Also wanted to make sure that if you are eligible or thinking about or currently have a housing accommodation, please don't delay on this process. I hope that you've already reached out to OSD and that you've already started that process with them before today. It does have to be done annually. It is not guaranteed that you're going to get the same accommodation each year. And so if you already have an accommodation with us, you should have been receiving email reminders since December, at least 3 at this point, to work with the Office for Students with Disabilities. It is important to note having a room type your first year on campus or even this year doesn't guarantee it will be the same accommodation provided the following year. And if you are confused at all about this process, we have our wonderful Yvonne Montano, who is our housing liaison. I recommend you reach out to her as soon as possible to make sure you know what your status is and you can discuss your situation. Just like any of these processes, the deadlines are important. Excuse me. So please, please don't delay. It's really important that you meet the deadlines to ensure that you have as many options available to you based on any approved accommodations that were received. So those deadlines are for February 27th. So if you don't have a guarantee, but you're looking for housing through the room selection process, your accommodation letter does need to be into our office by February 27th. And then if there's a very specific housing accommodation that is supposed to be provided to you, those letters need to be due to us by March 8th. So if you haven't started, I would urge today and see if you can rush it. If you can't meet those deadlines, then what we recommend is you still go through the full self-selection process, room selection process, or whatever process you're eligible for. And then we will work with you, your housing liaison will work with you once we get the AFA letter to discuss what availability we have and options available to you. Okay, and so for room selection, just tips and reminders, our room selection website page is updated. Our deadlines and details page are updated. I recommend going back to those regularly just to make sure there's no updated information that's happening or something else that you might need to be aware of. Again, please set those reminders for yourself, whatever time management systems you use. Make sure you meet all those housing deadlines and don't wait to reach out with questions. Reach out now, and you'll have our contact information again at the end of the slide. And we have also already dropped it into the chat. All the communication is going to go through your ucsd.edu email. So I know like there's midterms and the other things happening, but it's really, really important. If you get something from us at housing contracts or room selection, please read that email. Please make sure you're aware of what it's saying and any action items that might be assigned to you. And then make sure that you're aware that everything's happening within the housing portal to accomplish these steps. And so we have a small snippet of what that screen is going to look like. You're looking for the 2026 continuing student housing application and room selection process drawer. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to hand this over to Stacy, who's going to share our paths to housing for 26-27. So again, this is for all students. So hopefully you fit in these categories. So path one is going to be our students who have that housing guarantee and are eligible to participate in room selection. That means meeting all of our deadlines. That includes a successful payment of $450. That's a prepayment that counts to the overall cost of your housing. And then that deadline to complete your application and contract, as well as the prepayment, is February 26th. And then the second path is for students who don't have a housing guarantee. And that is again through the room selection interest list. And you just want to submit your interest by February 26th as well. Both of the deadlines are 11:59 p.m. And once again, there's still a route for you if you miss any deadline, and that would be through the waitlist, which is going to open in May. So Stacy, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Malia. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacy Travis, the Associate Director for Residential Services and Housing Allocations, and we're going to jump into room selection, which officially kicks off next week, and start to talk about those with a housing guarantee. So if you want to go to the next slide, Malia. Thank you. February 2nd or 3rd, most, if not all, students were sent an email, residents that live with us, of their status for the 26-27 academic year in terms of housing. And you were sent an email regarding your housing guarantee status, or if you didn't have a housing guarantee status. So for those with a housing guarantee, next week on the 18th of February, you're going to be able to go in and do your continuing student housing application that will lead right into your housing contract to sign and then make your $450 prepayment. So again, that starts next week on the 18th, and again, you'll have to the 26th to complete that. The housing application is going to ask you questions to review and update personal information, emergency and confidential contacts, and then you're going to complete the roommate matching information. That is things like I like to be awake at night, early in the morning, cleanliness of your room. You will not, as I've seen in some chats, you will not put in a preference for a room type or an area, because room selection is a process where you will self-select into available space during your randomly assigned lottery time, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But you're going to select from what available space you have. If you were an incoming first year this past fall in 25, during your process, you submitted a preference, single, double, triple, maybe mini double, depending on the area. Res hall apartment, again, depending on the college or community you were part of. But for room selection, we're not asking you for the preference because you will self-select into the space. So again, once you do the housing application, you're going to go right into the contract to electronically sign the contract and then make the $450 prepayment. Some of you may have a deferment, and at that point in time would be able to sign the promissory note. But again, you're going to go through that entire process. You're not, again, selecting or preferring roommates or preferences or selecting space. The 18th to 26th are strictly for those with a housing guarantee for an application and the housing contract. If you miss that window and do not complete everything by February 26th at 11:59 p.m., then you will have an opportunity to put yourself on the undergraduate waitlist, which will open up on May 11th. Next. There is a group within our guarantee population, which are our transfer students with a housing guarantee. So What you need to do, there's an extra piece. Those students were emailed earlier today. Starting tomorrow, and again, it's a transfer student only with the housing guarantee. We need you to go into preference either a 12-month or a 9-month contract between February 12th and February 16th. And again, the deadline for that will be 11:59 p.m. on Monday. What that is Pepper Canyon West is an option, but it's a 12-month community. So we need to find out from eligible students with a housing guarantee if you're interested in having a 12-month at Pepper Canyon West or 9-month at our other upper division housing properties. There are more students potentially that could be interested in the 12-month contract at Pepper Canyon West. So if there are more students, we will randomize all of those students to issue them a 12-month contract. If you don't get one, you will default to the 9-month contract. And then as we get vacancies, we will continue to reach out to students who have then also completed all of the housing deadlines. We will send a reminder email to those students probably over the weekend. I would say Sunday at this point in time. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to us at room selection at ucsd.edu. But again, starting tomorrow through the 12th, just for transfer students with the housing guarantee, there is an extra step we would like you to take to preference your interest in a 12-month or 9-month contracts. So again, once you sign the contract by the 26th, you are ready to move on to the next steps. So along with the contract process, all students are going to be automatically set to a quarterly installment payment plan right now for financial aid. We will address adjustments later. You will also select a dining plan as part of the housing contract process. You will select a preferred dining plan during this phase, and then we will allow adjustments to be made in August when all of the My Room assignments come up. So again, the rates, excuse me, in the dining plans are posted. So take a look at that. And as you go through the process, you'll be able to preference it and then change it at a later date and time. And again, the last time to change the dining plans will be October 1st of 2026. If students do not complete this process, let's say you do the application, but you don't do the contract, or you do the application and you don't finish the contract, which means you didn't sign or didn't make the 450 prepayment, you will no longer retain your housing guarantee, and we would work with you to put you on the fall waitlist, which again will open May 11th. So as Malia said, please make sure you're following all of the important dates that you need to meet to be able to participate in the room selection process. Once you're through that, you're going to have some additional housing options. You are at that point in time can apply for an available living learning community. The living and learning community exists at Muir College for the LGBTQIA+, for Raza at ERC, and then Sixth College has MCLLC and ABD LLC for students as well during the process. So we highly ask you to review that information on the website if you're interested. Again, it's an option, it's not required to apply for an LLC, it's just an option. You also can apply for iHouse at ERC. There is a small subset of spaces available so that that program can partner with international students that come in fall. So again, that is an option. You can only apply to one, either one LLC or iHouse. You can't do both or multiple LLCs, so keep that in mind as you go through the process. And you also can opt into gender inclusive housing. I'll talk a minute about Marshall College because they have a slightly different process, but if you're interested in a gender inclusive housing, please do so, but again, that'll be after the contract. The host colleges for the LLC and iHouse will contact you with a decision if you did apply, whether you're accepted, waitlisted, or declined. That is their process. So if there are any questions about that after you receive something, please let them know. But again, when you're accepted into an LLC or iHouse, You will have until March 16th to opt out. When you're accepted, we're assuming you want to participate. And if you decide from the time you are identified in that program to March 16th to opt out. That will be the same for gender inclusive housing. You can, if you decided to do gender inclusive housing early on, like March 1, and a couple days later you want to change your mind, you have the ability to adjust that. But all adjustments or confirmation or opting out of an LLC or iHouse need to be completed by March 16th. If you are registered at Marshall College, you have a program there that is all gendered housing. So all students registered at Marshall will be in all gendered housing. It means if you would like to live in gendered housing, male, female, you would opt out. We're going to ask that you connect with the Residence Life office, but again, on our room selection website under additional housing options, you'll see a section for all gendered housing. Please read that. We are working on some additional videos to post to help students through the process, so please check back on that once the process is started after the 18th, hoping that it's posted. And again, any questions about all gendered housing, please connect with the Marshall Residence Life office as we go through that. So again, gender inclusive housing is a process we've had for many, many years. And if you opt into gender inclusive housing, then students are going to select into available space that has been designated for gender inclusive housing. You can create roommates, apartment mate groups from students that are also participating in gender inclusive housing. So as an example, if I were to decide to go through gender inclusive housing, Malia didn't, we wouldn't be able to room together because we both may not be the same community, but we're not the same category, meaning we both didn't opt into gender inclusive housing. So I want to keep that in mind when you're going through the process. And if there are people you want to live with, that they've also decided to opt into gender inclusive housing as well. As a reminder to everybody, students are not guaranteed a single room and not guaranteed a single room in gender inclusive housing. Students understand and agree that their gender is not a factor in selecting into the available space. So again, you'll have until March 16th to opt out. And after that, we would need to work with students on a one-to-one basis, but it'll be based on availability or after room selection has finished. Once you get through the first part, stage 1 and stage 2 of room selection, there's going to be a small lull between finals, spring break, and the first week of April as spring quarter starts. So what we're gearing up for this is actually room selection sign up, and it's the self-selection process. So around April 9th or 10th, students are going to be sent their randomly assigned lottery time and roommate pin. That random lottery time will be the earliest that you can log in to select a space and go through the process. On the website and in part of our webinar, we listed the dates that your room selection community will participate in room selection sign up. So if you are a Revell registered student, you will be going through room selection sign up April 27th and 28th. All of the students will be issued the lottery time, the random lottery time on the first date in that combo, and then you'll have till the second day to select space by 11:59 p.m. on the end of that. So Revell will be able to do the 27th and 28th, and would have to select space by April 28th at 11:59 p.m. You were also going to be issued your roommate pin. So if Malia and I wanted to live together, we would share our pin with each other, and whomever perhaps maybe had the earliest lottery time will be able to go in, add the other person, as long as our community and category map, to then go through the process. So again, those are going to be issued April 9th or 10th. They're going to be issued to you via email. So please be on the lookout for that. And then after that, you'll be able to see it in the housing portal for room selection. Again, you were not preferencing a single, double, apartment, or res hall. You are going to be able to self-select into whatever space is available for your room selection housing community. Spaces are going to be what's available. It is possible certain areas, certain communities may have additional space elsewhere. Ravel typically will have additional space at another college or community. We haven't decided yet what that will look like. So again, we want you to continue to check back, especially the first part of April, where we should have that information and you can see what additional spaces would be available if that is in your area. Areas like Sixth College can self-contain, so they're not selecting space outside of that. We will have available room types, which will include double, triple rooms, single rooms, but again, could be limited in certain areas just based on what's available. There are many double options at ERC apartments and then RETA for the upper division housing. So keep that in mind as you're going through the process. We will have space for all students who do sign a contract and make the $450 prepayment or promissory note by the deadline. So keep that in mind. And if you choose not to select a space, you will have two options. You can choose to follow the cancellation policy if you would like, or you would become a delayed assignment where staff will assign you to a space based on availability at a later date and time. So again, please check out the website for all of this additional information, especially about, again, what a lottery time is, selecting a room or room selection choices as you start to get into the process. But again, it's got to be for a student that has completed the application, signed the contract, and made the 450 by the deadline. So tips and reminders for roommate information or the self-selection process. Continuing students will be allocated to their college room selection community. Continuing transfer students will be allocated to upper division housing for room selection. We will update the neighborhood previews, typically late March. And again, some colleges may have allocations elsewhere. Some of our college and housing community will do info sessions in April. So if they do, be on the lookout for that. We would post it on the website. Not everyone does, but again, if they do, we want to make sure you have the ability to look at it. The demo of the self-selection process for individuals or groups are posted. Please note that it does reflect 2025 data, so it's just for a demo only. We will make updates in the process, but if you are interested in looking at that, you can do that now. There are additional videos or demo or PDFs that we'll be populating and putting up there while we go through the process. So again, be familiar with what's on the website. Make sure as you're going through the process when you get to April to select a space that you have multiple options. Just don't look at one space, an apartment or unit. Look at the multiple options that are available to you. And again, single rooms are not guaranteed for any student. So please make sure you are open to availability and the locations that will be for your community or category as you go through the process. That was for everybody that has a housing guarantee. What if you don't have a housing guarantee? So if you don't have a housing guarantee for the 26-27 academic year, you are going to be able to sign up for our room selection interest list that runs the same time as the application and contract. So it's going to be February 18th to the 26th. You will share that you have interest, and we're going to collect all of those students during that time frame. If you don't get on the list during the 18th to 26th, then you will be able to put yourself on the wait list when it opens in May. What'll happen after the 26th is we will start to look at how many students are interested based on how many available spaces that we have. And our goal is by March 3rd is to email those students that are going to receive a housing contract for the 26-27 academic year. That contract process, which is listed, will happen March 5th through the 10th. That will be the same as a student that has gone through the contract process. You're going to update personal information, sign a contract, submit the 450, or if there is a deferment, an approved deferment, a promissory note. And then you will fall into the process with everybody else, receiving on April 9th or 10th a random assigned lottery date and time to participate in the process. And then based on your room selection community category, select a space between April 16th and 30th. If you unfortunately are not part of the group that gets an offer, you're going to retain on our list. And as we go through the process, we'll be reaching out to you. And we'll reach out no later than May 4th about the next steps, whether that means putting you on the wait list or working with you for you to put yourself on the wait list as we go through the process and keeping you updated along that time frame. So again, if you are currently residing with us and you are a student that doesn't have a housing guarantee, you do have an opportunity to put yourself on the room selection interest list starting February 18th.
Okay, thanks so much, Stace, for all that information. And so, as far as resources available to you, multiple of these links I think have been dropped into the chat. But just so you're aware of where you can find that information, we have our room selection website, the deadlines and details that have those specific deadlines you want to make sure you're in alignment with. If you, I mean, hopefully you know what your neighborhoods look like, but just in case, you can take a look at the undergrad neighborhoods, as well as our transfer and upper division housing neighborhoods. And then our dining and housing rates are available online so that you can make an educated decision maybe about what options are available to you based on your financial situation. And then coming soon, we'll be uploading our housing cancellation policy for next year, as well as samples of the housing contract. I do want to let you know, as far as canceling, there is no fee until you actually self-select into a space, or if you didn't assign a space to yourself, we will assign one to you. So once a space is assigned or once you've selected one, that is where the first cancellation fee jumps in at $250. So um, make sure that you're planning ahead. And then again, we'll drop those links into our chat once again. I do want to confirm or, acknowledge that maybe on-campus housing isn't really what you're thinking about. Maybe you're just here to see what's available, what your options are. And so if you are considering off-campus, want to make sure that you're aware of these resources. I hear a lot from transfer students. I've been in the RA interviews the last few weeks, as well as our other students, maybe not knowing what resources are here available to you on campus. And so I want to urge all of you to take advantage of those as much as you can. So one of those is going to be our basic needs at the hub. And so they do offer advice for off-campus housing and consultation. And so there is a basic needs form that you can fill out. They can talk about what your options are. They can give you advice on the first time maybe signing a lease for off campus, and learn more about move in and move out resources, as well as maybe any financing or funding that might be available to you should you move off campus. Also on their website, they are promising an educational housing campaign for spring of 2026 for off-campus housing needs. So keep an eye on those websites, and we should drop that link for you as well. I think another thing that you want to consider, if you are going to move off campus, is what are your transportation options? So I would say even if you have a vehicle, I have one and I know parking is expensive and it's hard to find. So we've all been in that situation, not me going to class, but maybe for me coming to a meeting where you're just circling these parking lots and you're waiting for someone to leave, and knowing maybe you only have a few more minutes to get to that meeting or to that class. It is stressful sometimes trying to find parking here. So maybe consider what transportation options are available to you in those neighborhoods that you're looking at for off campus. So you can look for obviously the UC San Diego shuttle routes, the trolley now that we have here, the MTS bus routes, or if you prefer to take your own vehicle, what the parking costs might be for you and what locations are advisable for our commuting students. And last but not least, I highly recommend student legal services. So again, these are all resources here on campus available to you, and they can help you review your lease terms. They can make you aware of any rules in that lease or contract. And then you really, really want to remember you are signing a legally binding contract. So here, for example, if you're going to terminate, there is specific criteria that you need to fulfill. It will be the same when you're moving off campus. And typically they'll hold you responsible through the end of that term. So you definitely want to make sure you know what you're signing up for, and please have student legal services take a look at that lease before you sign it. Okay, so final reminders. Hopefully we've driven home the need to meet all these deadlines, but again, February 18th to the 26th, you can be doing either our continuing student housing application and contract along with that 450 prepayment or promissory note, or you might be looking at that room selection interest list. Starting tomorrow, I think, right through the 16th, we're asking our transfer students to also log into the housing portal to make sure to select interest in a 9 or 12-month contract. Or if you're already living at Pepper Canyon West and you have a guarantee, whether you want to retain that same room that you're living in now. Some additional deadlines will be February 19th through the March 3rd is those additional housing options Stacy provided. Living Learning Communities, iHouse, and our gender inclusive housing. The only way you can participate in those is if you've met that final deadline of February 26th. Starting March 5th through the 10th, if you do receive an offer to participate in campus from the room selection interest list, your contract process will begin. And then beginning March 9th through the 10th, those with a guarantee will go through our room selection process. You'll have that lottery date and time and the roommate PIN that's going to be sent to you via email and then again available on the housing portal. And then the 16th through the 30th is going to be those specific self-selection sign-up dates for different communities. And I just want to remind everybody that we are recording this and it will be posted on our website the week of the 16th. We also are going to do some shorter recordings for Pepper Canyon West room retention, as well as additional information for our room selection interest list. So just some smaller informational videos that you can watch if you have questions about what those processes look like as well. And so lastly, I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to get into our live Q&A. It's about 3:41 right now for about 15 minutes. So this is our contact information. Again, anything regarding your actual contract, that would be a termination cancellation question, anything regarding your billing, your holds, any kind of generic housing question you might have, please reach out to us here at Housing Administrative Services. That's our emails and our phone number. We are in person also to meet you if you need to talk with us in human form, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. And we utilize ServiceNow to answer our emails, which is nice because you have a way to track that email that's sent to us. For Stacy's team, that's the Resident Services and Housing Allocations team. So again, specific questions regarding that room selection process, any troubleshooting questions you might have. But once again, they're going to be posting some demos and other information online that I would suggest you check out. Room assignments, room changes, anything about the housing portal, you can reach them at roomselection@ucsd.edu. And then last but not least, any student with housing accommodations or who identify transgender, genderqueer, agender, and gender nonconforming, or for our Hope Scholars, please reach out to our housing liaison. Both their email and phone number are available to you. And again, if you are working on accommodations, please don't hesitate. Please get that done as soon as possible. Okay, time for live Q&A. Let's see if we have it together here, Stacy. Okay,
I
Zach.
always do that. I start to talk and realize that I'm on mute.
Well, I'm
At that
sorry.
point
I
in
I
time.
saw Zach's question here. Who to reach out to in the future? Well, you can reach out to any of us, Zach. We will route you in the right direction.
Appropriately.
Yeah, yeah. So even though we have, special categories essentially that we cover, if we can't answer it, we'll engage with Stacy's team. If Stacy's team needs help, they'll engage with us. If it's not either of us, we will make sure to refer you to the right resource. So pick any of those emails and I can put them back up on the screen. And we'll make sure we get you to the right person. Sorry, Stacy, you want to say something?
No, no, you're good. I was just going down the list, but
Okay.
realized before I was talking and was mute, so we're good to go. Another question we're going to answer live is, I'm currently a second-year student and have a guaranteed housing. Am I able to group with people who does not have guaranteed housing for next year? The answer is yes, if those individuals are coming from the room selection interest list and are being offered a contract for the 26-27 academic year. So you may want to follow up with those friends of yours that perhaps are non-guaranteed and see where they're going to be in the process. And if they are lucky enough to get a contract and sign it, then and in your community and category, then yes, you'd be able to live with them for next year.
And just to clarify, if they're not on campus with a current contract, then no, correct? They would
Then
have.
no, they would go on the wait list. And then if there's a chance down the line that a space opens up closer to the start of school, we can work with students at that point in time. That's usually a challenge, but it does happen every so often. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through the process.
Okay.
Um,
The next one's about room selection interest form. They want to clarify if they get say or they are assigned to a space.
No, if you are room selection interest and again you sign up and we're able to offer you a contract, you are going to self-select into space based on what's available at your available lottery date and time and what's
So
at your
available
community.
community.
Yep,
So anonymous attendee, that means I like to say that. Basically, you get to pick. So what's
yep,
available is open for you to select. In one case, if you don't select a space and the deadline is over to pick it, then in that case, we will assign the space to you.
yep,
So I would say pick the best option that you have available at the time of self-selection.
yep. Okay, good.
Okay, this goes back to having multiple plans. So what happens if I have a suite group, but there's no full suites left? Are people who are not hoping to be with a group going to be put together so there is space for groups?
So if you're part of a group and you're not able to room together, we're going to advocate that you break up your group and select into space. And then after room selection has completed, you're more than welcome to connect with us at room selection at ucsd.edu. And we'll see if there's anything between then and when we open for the fall, if there's any way to make adjustments for groups. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it's not, just depends on the location if there's been any vacancies. So again, make sure you have a plan. Make sure when we do release the lottery date and times that you are working with your friends, your group, perhaps who has the earliest to log into and what does that look like. But make sure you plan for it. And yes, you may not get your group together, but can reach out to us at a later date and time, and we can monitor it over the summer to see if there are things that can change.
Okay, I think I know the answer to this one. I can give you a break here. Currently, I'm a freshman undergrad at Marshall College. Am I eligible for community living apartment on campus? And can I select any particular neighborhood or apartment building for community living? So, as a freshman returning for your second year at Marshall, you're going to be looking at Marshall College as your community option. Um, with that college system, Stacy's team tries really hard initially when you get here to make sure that you're assigned within your college of registration. Unfortunately, some of the communities just aren't big enough to house everyone, so they do have to put you all in other places. Same for our transfer students as well. But in this case, Marshall is large enough to house their students. So when you go into the self-selection process, you will be looking just at Marshall College options. Um, I hope that makes sense. Stacy, anything I missed?
Great answer.
Okay,
Perfect answer.
thank you.
Perfect answer.
You. Okay, we have Tanya, who is currently living in PCE with a 9-month contract and would like to move into PCW in the summer and stay through the fall. They are graduating in 2027.
So, Tanya, starting tomorrow, if you have a housing guarantee, you would be able to go in and show interest in a 12-month contract. And then if we're able to offer that to you, you will select into a space in Pepper Canyon West for the fall. For summer, we'd have to look at it if you're taking classes, summer classes, or if there's availability for PCW in the summer for that to move. Otherwise, if you got into PCW via a contract, then it would start in September through 2027 when the contract ends. So I think monitor that as we go through the process. And if you, again, have something specific, you can reach out to room selection at ucsd.edu while we're going through the process. But be ready to do that tomorrow to jump in and show interest in a 12-month contract if you have the housing guarantee.
So I hear you saying if Tanya gets the 12-month contract offer and completes all that stuff all the way through to the deadline,
For
if,
sure, PCW for
yeah,
fall, summer, we'd have to look and see if there's availability.
okay. And then they could reach out to us to
Yeah,
see what the next steps are. Okay.
yeah.
I'm crossing my fingers for you. Congrats on your graduation too this year or next year. Chalk is asking, Chalk Singh, when will transfer students find out they've received a 12-month or 9-month contract? And are PCW positions very competitive?
So you'll find out when you are going through the contracting process. Ideally, we'd love to give you an update before the 18th of February if we can. So that's a goal. But if not, you would find out when you start to do um, the contract process after the 18th. PCW is very competitive. There's only so many beds there. And with over 1,900 um, transfer students that do have a guarantee for room selection, we could see over 1,300 that are interested, and not everybody can live there. So, if you're interested, please let us know. If you don't get it, you will get the 9-month contract offer. Again, if you have a housing guarantee, and then we keep that list. So if there are people that don't follow the process, don't complete their contract, maybe change their mind, aren't going to be here, then we'll start to go through that list to find students that are interested and offer them a contract. So again, if you're interested, please sign up, and then we'll keep communicating with students as we go through the process.
Thanks, Stace. Flora's already answering this, but there's a question in regards to no dining plan options being available to students, non-transfer continuing students or only transfers. It's not the student type that is made available to, it's the housing location.
Correct.
So to your point, questioner, it is in our transfer and upper division locations. So the Rita, Pepper Canyon East / Matthews, and Pepper Canyon West are the locations that offer the option for no dining plan. But it's more about the community, not technically the student type. But to your point, we do typically have transfers and continuing students living in those places.
Yep.
If you are not in those housing locations, you will be required to select a dining plan. And so even in the contract, you're going to preference, what you think you might get, but that is all dependent on where you self-select into, what community you end up in.
Yep.
Let's see here. I was just going to make some recommendations of things that you had talked about because I'm trying to see what else has been marked live, but I think we got
Let's
most of them.
see. Somebody said our first years at Marshall College only housed at Alianza. They were this year as a new housing project. We meet with all of the residence life offices to prep for room selection, and they'll let us know what spaces that we will be working with in terms of that. So again, that question, you may want to reach back out to your residence life office. And again, for anything really specific at your college, your residence life office is a great resource as well, besides housing. So always feel free to connect with them if you need to.
I see this one. This person's currently in a double, but would like to room with someone random moving forward. So I'm not sure what your status is, but if you are a guaranteed student participating in room selection, you're just going to go on your assigned self-selection day and pick a space. If someone has already secured a space within the same room, you can see their personal history form and their basic information. And that might be a way for you to determine perhaps if you would be a good fit. So it is possible to go through this whole process without knowing or having roommate groups. And so again, you're just going to make sure you hit all those deadlines. And then in April, when you're going through the self-selection process, you can be a little choosy if you want to and see who's already in the space, and maybe if your conditions align essentially with how you want to live, then you would self-select into that space and essentially choose that person as your roommate. That makes sense. Did I miss anything, Stacy?
Nope, you got it.
I did think talking a little bit about the roommate process. I know that you addressed it in your slides, but I want to say that's probably one of the larger questions I think we all get is when it's going on. That's when the questions start happening. So I wanted to
Yeah.
encourage everyone. Please make sure when you're setting up your groups, again, you're in the same categories. And there's some examples Stacy gave. So If I want to do gender inclusive, but Stacy doesn't, we cannot be together. Even if we're marsh or mere students, because I'm going to go through the gender inclusive process and Stacy will not. Um, with Marshall, that's a whole nother situation because it's an all gendered process. If I opted out and said I want to live in a gendered space in a room in a gendered apartment, and Stacy said I don't really care, just assign, I'm going to live wherever. We are on two completely separate paths we that don't meet essentially. So it's really, I mean, of course, we'll try to help you, if something goes wrong, but really, really important that you know who's going to be in your group, you get those pins together and then you make sure you are same. I don't know how else to say it. Matchy matchy. I'm not sure the right word to say.
Yeah, and as you're going through the process and we're getting through the application and the contract and we're getting through options for LLC or gender inclusive, when you log into the room selection for the housing portal, it will show you your community and your category. You can see it as you're going through the process. So please make sure as you're talking with friends, things change in the status. If I got accepted here or there, that'll be adjusted. Please be looking at that. So if I'm talking with Malia and Malia goes, oh, I opted out, I want gendered housing. And I go, oh, I totally different. You kind of want to take care of that before all of those deadlines. So make sure you're looking at that as you log into things. It will start to present your community and your category when you get through that application and contract and then the options after that. That will help you immensely if you are looking at it. And it's available when you log into your laptop or if you're on your phone, you can see what that is. So make sure you're doing that because that will help not be a problem when you get to the day to select a space and realize that something didn't happen.
Yeah, you don't want to wait
So,
till that day that you're trying to
yeah,
pick spaces to find out you're not on the same path. It's very
yeah.
frustrating, which we all understand. And I was going to say too, maybe make it fun, like get everyone together, maybe do your application and contract together, make sure you're picking the same options. And again, that you're aligning yourselves on those same pathways with each other.
Um,
We have about 4 minutes left,
Somebody
Stace.
asked, does Marshall all gendered mean all suite mates will be same gender or random gender? So all gendered is their program where they're not looking at a student gender. So it would be a different version of gender inclusive housing. So you could be in the apartment and you could identify as female and somebody else could identify as male and you're in the same bedroom. And maybe somebody else in the apartment identifies as non-binary. So when you're going through room selection, all Marshall registered students, not transfers, all current first years going to second years or continuing students that are registered at Marshall will all be in automatically in all gendered. If you choose not to be part of all gendered, you will opt out into gendered housing and what that looks like. And even within all gendered housing, you're going to be asked to decide if you want to be in an apartment where it doesn't look at the gender or if you want to be in an apartment where your roommate is your same gender. So please make sure you're reaching out to Marshall. Please go to the website. Again, we're working on a quick video to help go through that process. We're not completed with that with marketing, but it'll be up hopefully before the process starts next week or hopefully right after that. Because there is an opportunity to go in and adjust it. But you do need to be talking with your friends. As Malia said, you cannot just assume somebody has done this in their process. And I'm also going to recommend for everybody room selection. I think students feel that you have to get this done quickly. Whether you are able to go in the first way to do it or the very end, it doesn't matter as long as you finish it. So please make sure you have time to sit and go through it. Do not go so quickly that you're missing things because that's usually when mistakes are made. But it's not going to be first come, first serve. Just because you get it on the 18th doesn't mean you're getting an early lottery time. It doesn't really matter. It's just as long as you've completed it by the 26th at 11:59 p.m. and then all subsequent deadlines after that, depending on what that is. So please take the time, find a good time to sit and do it, and not rush through it. Because I
Okay,
think
we're
that'll help.
we're here at the end. So there's one hot topic I'm going to ask you for, Stacy, that Yvonne proposed to us. And it is, so again, we're wrapping up. We're going to answer these last questions. It's 3:59. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying here and asking your questions. Again, this will be posted if there's anything you want to go back and look at. Stacy mentioned there'll be demos and troubleshooting guides on the websites available for you all. Don't wait to the last minute. But the hot topic is, when will people find out if they get the 12-month housing contract?
Yeah, I mean, if we can do it, we're gonna try to get it out before the 18th start. If not, you're gonna find out when you start the process. So ideally, if we can do it, it'll be the 17th, but
Awesome.
we'll try.
Okay. Well, thank you, Stacy. Thank you, all of our staff
Thank
here
you,
in the
Malia.
background, answering all the Q&A questions. Hopefully you all felt it was helpful. I want to wish you a happy room selection process here for 26, 27, and enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks, everybody.